you feel the fever. 1 hour. Arguments, controversies, questions and answers, tensions rising, and more arguments. One man, one woman, one show. X-Ray. Airing live on Human Rights Radio 101.1 Abuja. Welcome to X-Ray on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. Today on X-Ray, we'll take a look at the number of topics. It's increased from yesterday's 3 topics to 4 topics today. But of course, one of the most interesting ones will be the last one that we'll take a look at. Thank you so much for being patient with us and being a part of the family. Today will be a special day because part of our discussion will engage persons or individuals in charge of education. And that's very important to us in this country because our barrister Idris will always hammer on the need for education and research. I think Wale also does that. So we're going to be looking at the importance of education and how it affects our country, Nigeria. So on X-Ray today, I am not alone as usual. I have someone in this. I have a number of persons in the studio. Oikeke Igado joins us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We also have Barrister Idris in the building. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Peter, and welcome to every listener and those who are watching us live.
Wale Greg Williams, thank you for being part of X-Ray and for coming on the show.
Good morning, Human Rights Radio. Good morning, Nigeria.
So we start off with the first story. Nigeria's president has again asked for permission, let's put it that way, from the National Assembly, asking for a $5.5 billion loan approval. And that came up yesterday. The Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, actually read that letter to the members of the National Assembly as yesterday, the Senate. And that again brings up one of the key issues about whether to be or not to be, to take the loan or not to take the loan. Again, you might want to ask yourself questions about the frequency of how loans are being taken by the federal government these days. This is not the first time we've seen that, and in fact the question remains, how has it also affected members of the Nigerian community in a positive way? Let's start with Barrister Idris.
Good morning again. I think the issue of borrowing, for me, I want to question the rationale of borrowing again at this time when we are talking about even non-implementation of part of the budget. The money we've so far budgeted, how far have we gone with it? So if we can account for what we've been spending, why do we go about borrowing again to finance the budget? Some of them I have their good reasons. For me, I don't think it's necessary at this time because, like Aisha said something yesterday which we discussed, that a lot of money was budgeted for the ASO clinic, and even the commonest of all things, syringe, they don't have. So we need to first account for what we have given out first, for us to know where we are, and then we now say, okay, this is why we want to borrow. The money we have earmarked for some project, if the money has been released, what have happened to those projects for now? We don't know. So why are we borrowing again? To do what? So for me, I don't think it's very necessary.
But the oil prices have dropped over the times past. Where do you think the government will get money to finance most of its projects?
That again is our foreign reserve. Recently, we learned the thing has gone up to about $36 billion or something like that. If you are able to save, then it then means you have some money somewhere. So why do you go and start borrowing when your savings you can actually take from there? By borrowing, we are incurring interest rate, mind you. What we are saving, I don't know whether it generates interest. So it's neither here nor there for me. If you want to say you want to borrow, you should be borrowing for things that can yield positive result. Like the last time we talked about borrowing to finance a rail system, transport system, that was fine for me. I could see where we are going to. That sector can generate a lot of fund for the government, and it can even save our roads in terms of cost of maintenance and all of that. So you have to factor in a lot of things before you say you want to borrow. If you have a reserve, why not just draw from there instead of you borrow? For God's sake, you are just becoming a kind of I don't know, want to use the word begging. It's like whatever the person who borrowed you says, you play by it. So you don't have your own say again when it comes to issue of international concern. So for me, if we have our reserve, why not draw from there? Why do you have to go and borrow?
Okay.
This came as, because recently the Minister of Finance had said that we don't need to borrow, that Nigeria does not need to borrow to finance this 2017 budget. So along the line, I don't know what happened, that the President is asking for an approval for us to borrow 5.5 billion this time, because the Minister had said, look, we don't need to borrow any money to finance. So something must have gone wrong somewhere. Borrowing to finance the capital budget may not sound like a bad thing to start with, because without a capital budget being implemented, that is poverty. Poverty continues for our people. The President said, okay, a part of it, like 2 point something part of it is going to be used for rail, road, electricity and all that. It sounds good, but by the end of the day, can we ensure that these monies that we're borrowing are actually used to implement those items in our budget? That is the main issue that we should be looking at, and that will bring us to the point that, okay, if by the end of the day it's approved, can we ensure as a people that this money is actually used for us to get those capital items that we need, like roads, railway, and electricity, for instance? That should be where we should be looking at.
Sorry, Peter. You see, I read in one report that in India they are using about 2.something billion to ensure that every home in India has light. In Nigeria, we have spent over $6 billion. Nigeria is not as big as India. It's really sad, because 2.something billion to finance electricity in India, and every home will have light. That is what they are working on as we speak. And we will have spent over $6 billion and we still don't have light. It's sad. Let's leave that side. Ethiopia, their rail system, they spent about 2 billion, less than that, to run their railway, and theirs is even faster. It's not almost like a light rail system. And how much have we spent? Not even close to what we've spent, over 3 times over what they spent, and theirs is much more effective and even larger than to cover a lot of kilometers than ours. So if you look at all of this, inflating the price of items is one big problem we are facing, and we need to deal with some of these issues before you now saying you want to. Sincerity is far lost in this part of the world. So I'm really sad that people are working, trying to make things better. Some are just making things worse. I'm not entirely blaming government for this, because they need to finance the budget. But for me, I don't think this is the way to go about it. There was one time Saudi government wanted to construct a dam. What they did was they made announcement for close to about 6 weeks. They were on air, on radio. We want to increase the pump price from this amount to this amount for a period of this for this period. We want to use the money, the proceeds, to do a dam for generation of electricity and all of that. And when the time came, every person understood what was happening. Then the pump price was increased for like 6 months. That was the plan. But before 6 months, I think after 5 months, 2 weeks, they've gotten the money they needed. The pump price came back to the normal price they were selling, and they used the money to finance that project. You know, communication is key to whatever you want to do. If government is hiding information from the public, when you want to do some of these activities, people will frown at it. People will not be home with what you are doing. So we need information. We need to be told what is happening so that we can be part and parcel of what the government is doing.
Wale obviously may not agree with some of you.
Well,
both
yes,
of you.
It's the current situation in Nigeria. Oftentimes we think we know, but when push comes to shove, we see that we just talk superficially. A lot of Nigerians have made it a custom to criticize what they have little or no information about, and it's very worrisome. If you're in the public and you hear some Nigerians describe Buhari or describe an Obiano or talk about Ambode or talk about El Rufai, you would think that the man is just one Islamic school scholar who didn't have any experience or something. But they are far from the reality because they have no information. The issue of borrowing, I blame the federal government first of all, because there are two sides to it. One is that preceding regimes before now have borrowed and have not been able to defend it, and that's very disturbing. Secondly is the fact that from my viewpoint, I may be wrong, the information parasites of the federal government are not doing enough. By my rating, I'll give them maybe 7%. The civil enlightenment, public consciousness level is so low, and that's why we have all these negative speculations. You can imagine the monkeypox issue. I'm sorry to digress. The rumor was that federal government nurses and health workers were going to Bayelsa State to inject the virus into Bayelsans to reduce the population of Bayelsa State people. I say, how reasonable can that be? Now, back to the issue of borrowing. Nigeria is not even in the list of the first 50 debtor nations. Why do you borrow? Look at Nigeria like an individual. For a bank to borrow you money, Mr. Peter, they must have looked at various indices and found out that this man is capable of paying back. Do you understand? We have very big countries like Finland, Malaysia, Australia, Austria, Hungary, South Korea, topping, in fact, at the bottom of the list of borrowing nations. They borrow to stabilize the economy. Oftentimes you hear Nigerians say, look, there's no employment. Forgetting that the deep root analysis of employment is that once you engage a staff now, or you employ somebody now, you are paying about 11-fold, which includes the basic salaries, all the emoluments, pensions and gratuities, all are going to be inside. And then somebody's, like yesterday at the National Assembly, there's an agitation. Some people from the Cross River State, Oron, they came to the Assembly to begin agitation for government to upgrade the Maritime Ministry to a degree awarding. It's a monotechnic. By the time they begin to do multiple courses, they need mass land. The cost of fencing that institution alone is like going to be from here to like area 1. And the cost of that will be in billions. We're not talking about recurrent. And these are things people forget. For you to be able to sustain all of this, employ it's money that you need. And there are just 3 factors to it. It's either you reduce projects, development projects, that's one, or you increase tax. And then the third one is to borrow. So it is left for us to choose which of them is, to be.
But the question again you want to ask is, yes, Nigeria may qualify for borrowing. Yes, we may not be among the top 50 debtor nations.
Yes.
But the question is, are those nations, for instance, bedeviled by corruption? Nigeria is known for high-level corruption. We talked about it yesterday. We gave instances on the program as well. Now, how do you manage a situation where a country borrows money and the reason for borrowing is not seen by members?
Like I just told you before now, it has been a bad experience before now. And I think this government, to an extent, I'm convinced that they mean well. And so far, if they maintain the posture of anti-corruption, of course, they are expected to live above board. So far, by my assessment, they are above 50%. And we should give them that trust, at least to prove, because another 1.5 years, we should be able to assess them and give a big picture review of their performance. So far, when you look at what they have in foreign reserve, every country wants to beg. Have you seen situations where banks will come to a company and begin to beg them, okay, sorry, how much do you need? The man says, look, I don't want to borrow. That's the situation with Nigeria. We're crawling out of the hole that we have found ourselves. And I think it's better for us to use the ladder slowly to crawl out of that hole instead of digging deep. You know, if they're going to assess your net worth, which is a factor before they borrow you, they look at your personality now, whether you're, moving and improving out of that bad image zone. Nigeria, we're doing well, honestly, things are getting better. So we can afford to borrow. But the bottom line, like Oikeke said, is to make sure it is judiciously used for its purpose. That's my view. We need to borrow.
Where's Idris?
Like I said, I thank God that Wale said something that previous borrowing cannot be accounted for. The last year budget, like I said one time, a budget is a law once it is passed by National Assembly and the President signs off on it. The thing is, once a budget is not implemented, I think we need to challenge the status quo to know why that budget was not implemented. Even there are some cases, Peter. I've never been to budget defense, but I've had opportunity of seeing some budgets. A ministry, for instance, can send a budget of 2015, just up the figure and submit it as 2016. The same 2016, they'll up the budget as 2017. For instance, you can see a budget line, purchase of furnitures in 2015, the same 2016, purchase of furniture. 2017, purchase of, for God's sake, how many times are we buying furniture? If you say the money was not a release to you for you to purchase the furniture, come and tell us. ASO clinic, they will say spoons and all. So are you changing spoons every day? Are you chewing it? Are you eating it? We are not sincere, and it's painful. The president, I don't envy him at all. Honestly speaking, I don't, because he found himself in a situation where I don't know how to even describe it. So it's really sad. We are talking about change. We are talking about how to to make Nigeria better. But the whole lot of us, we are not committed in doing the talk. We only talk about it. Nobody is actually doing what we need to do to make Nigeria, to liberate Nigeria from where we find ourselves. Mm-hmm. So it's sad.
All right, so if you're just joining us, this is actually on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We've been talking about some developments. Remember, we take a look at trending topics making the rounds across Nigeria and beyond. And the first topic we've started with this morning is the letter that was read on the floor of the Senate and the House of Representatives, respectively, by the Speaker of the House and also the President of the Senate, regarding the need for more borrowing of $5.5 billion by Mr. President. When we come back from the break, we'll take a look at other topics. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Welcome, my dear friends.
Human Rights Radio. Your 100% effort is not good enough.
How about you know?
Give me 101.1 effort.
It's about that time.
This is Human Rights Radio 101.1. Redefining broadcasting.
Welcome back. It's X-Ray on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. Before the break, we were talking about President Muhammadu Buhari seeking the approval of the National Assembly for a $5.5 billion external loan. And moving away from that, let's go straight up to the topic that has been trending since Saturday or thereabout. We talked about it from Monday, Tuesday, and today we will still talk about it. Representatives summoned the health minister as Senate demands proactive measures to halt the spread of monkeypox. Nigeria's House of Representatives has summoned Health Minister Professor Isaac Adewale to explain measures taken by the federal government to tackle the outbreak of the monkeypox disease in some parts of the country, some states of the country. At the Tuesday plenary presided over by the Speaker, Yakubu Dogara, lawmakers lamented that the country's health ministry was helpless without relying on the World Health Organization to stop the spread of the virus. The lawmakers also expressed concerns that a country as big as Nigeria did not have a laboratory to respond to the health emergency without first sending specimen to Dakar, Senegal for investigations. Also on Tuesday, the Senate urged the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Health, states and local governments as well as community-based organizations to be proactive in containing the prevention and of the spread of monkeypox disease from where it was reported to have started. This is yet another shocking development, if it turns out to be true. Sending specimen to another African country that obviously should look up to Nigeria and not the other way around. What is your reaction, Barrister Idris?
Peter, it's not far-fetched. ASO Clinic doesn't have a syringe. What do you expect? For God's sake. We shouldn't be pretending that we are big. We are not. We are not.
But we are big.
Big as in
we don't have a choice. We are big.
Population, the size, yes. But in terms of productivity, like doing what we are supposed to do, we are not taking the lead. That's sad. Again, it brings me back to the question of Dr. Agwali trying to establish a vaccine industry here in Nigeria. People are making contribution. Nigerians in diasporas are making contribution. This is a commitment. If to run a test, we need to go to Senegal. For God's sake, where are we? Haba.
Obviously, this means that if there's a large outbreak, a possible large outbreak, we're not ready to handle. I mean, we talked about it on Monday, and the question was, are we ready to handle this case? Obviously, I mean, I don't know what to say. Wale?
Well, for me, it's a minus. It's a big reduction in the profile of Nigeria. We have about 115 universities presently, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure over 80% of them have facilities of various kinds to test either agricultural products, health-related issues, medical activities, and the rest. I felt demoralized when I heard that we went to neighboring Dakar. Dakar, in capacity, in finance, even in exposure, is not in any way near us at all. In fact, I know of 2 or 3 states that can swallow Dakar in competence and then go ahead like you swallow a bowl of rice, so to say, and then you go playing around. You know, it's time for government at this point to hold certain agencies, to hold certain institutions responsible and accountable. I think the Senate should call all the vice chancellors of various tertiary institutions, provosts, rectors, vice chancellors, headmistresses, even of some secondary schools, and then summon them and then give them the marching order with timeline.
What about the political will? I mean, if the politicians are not ready to do it, how will the universities be ready?
It begins from there, because ASU is going on strike because of emolument. They should be able
Who
to
is
go on
responsible for ASU's strike? Is it not the politicians?
Peter, the politicians, members of the National Assembly, they are legislators. They are there to make laws, make policies that will direct the affairs of the state, to assist the executive in every way possible, while the judiciary is to implement the law and policies developed by them. What policies have they put in place to ensure that all of this don't happen? Are we just seeing it now? Ebola came. How did we deal with it? It took the intervention of other international organizations to see us through. Haven't we learned from Ebola? It then means if after Ebola,
honestly, beyond the issue of policy,
you see,
beyond the issue of policy, what is the routine of any university or tertiary institution?
no, I
daily?
have said it here.
It's not all about documents and policy.
Our universities
what is your daily routine? What is your element of input? How do you measure quality? Every year you are promoting yourself to senior lecturer, to doctors, to professors. What have you added?
Yesterday I was surprised. I was surprised that even the Senate, even members of the National Assembly are saying that they are shocked and they are alarmed that we are sending specimen to. Why should that be? They should have. I wasn't shocked because when you look at the kind of facilities that we have in the country, we should not.
Yes. All the heads of institutions and give them a matching order. Yes. Give them 2 weeks.
And I think
in 2 weeks period we should have solutions to this small monkeypox. It's not beyond us.
I think these things are happening because our leaders don't attend the health facilities that we have. I mean, they do not. They don't patronize. When they have problems, they go overseas. So they don't even have first-hand knowledge of the lack of the basic infrastructure that we need in the hospitals. So
sorry, Wale was even saying something about the university. Our universities, their laboratory, they don't even have equipment.
So how is it that money was just budgeted?
So who is responsible?
Corruption and even members of the
start to hold people to account for what has been given to them.
Our legislators,
nothing is going to work.
Our legislators have a major role to play. Now you have a responsibility of overseeing these agencies as part of your major responsibilities. But what do we do if we are going, for instance, the allegations that if they're going to oversee an agency or a ministry, for instance, we've had cases where things are prepared and by the end of the day they just make noise, they just talk, and then we'll sanction this, we'll sanction that, they expose things, and then nothing happens by the end of the day. So they need to improve in their oversight functions. If not, we cannot trace the monies that are budgeted and are appropriated for projects. And if the projects are not done, it's poverty versus poverty.
And the National Assembly has also called for aggressive enlightenment of the citizens about the measures that can be taken to mitigate risk factors of exposure to the virus through sustained public health messages via the conventional media and the social media platforms. But we're not seeing a lot of investment in that area.
I haven't even heard anything about that anybody is saying.
That is secondary.
What exactly is information? Is it the minister coming out to make a statement, or jingles playing 247?
At least let's have jingles playing, yes.
247
on newspapers.
Yes.
What exactly should information be like?
Honestly, if we don't handle the jingle issue well, we'll create panics. And you, my friend, for example, and colleague, I can't say good morning to you close by. I'll stay afar and say good morning, man.
Okay, I think that will depend on the message that you're sending.
We have people who are professionals in that area to go straight to the drawing board and begin to do research and begin to go to the lab and look at what the real issue is. Nobody up until now has been able to come out and tell us this is the level of efficacy, this is the real actual issue, where it's neither here nor there as usual. And then we'll take this specimen to Senegal. One day we'll take it to Mali.
Right. But there's a need for us to start the sensitization, at least on the basic principles. What are those preventive measures? At least those simple ones.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that, because Nigerians just need that information.
Yes, they need the information. Wash your hand, don't do this, don't do that. It's going to help a lot.
Simple information. Did you know about monkeypox before? There are people who are not aware of it.
Who knows about it?
Do you know how it is transmitted?
We do not know.
This is what you need to do to ensure that you don't get get
who the
exposed
target
to
is?
it. Yes.
Do you know who are the vulnerable persons
Honestly,
are?
all of these are going to be speculations.
If-
Let professionals, let laboratory experts, let scientists come up with what they have found out before they begin to tell us, do you know?
No, there may not be time for that. But if we have to wait, until they come out, I mean, a lot of people would have been infected.
Well, those were. You thought that was shocking. Let's move to another shocking story.
Okay.
There is a serious shock as 21,780 Kaduna teachers failed primary 4 examinations. So the story goes about 21,780 out of 33,000 teachers have failed the primary 4 examination administered to test their competence by the Kaduna state government. Owing to the mass failure, the state is now shopping for 25,000 new teachers as one of the plans to restore quality to education. The governor also said that the bid to improve the education sector, the school directors have decided to enroll their children in public schools starting from this academic session. Is this alarming or shocking?
Well,
It is.
Well, this is another. You see, Nigerians are superhuman. All of this bad news, we're able to weather them and we shrug it and we move on. You know, like with pure water, we bathe with it. The truth of the matter is that, you see, we blame decaying education infrastructure, and I don't agree. It is only in Nigeria that a child in secondary school does 17, 18 subjects. In other countries, it's not more than 11. In fact, in foreign countries, it's 7, it's 8. I'm talking authoritatively because I've been around and I know what I'm saying. Apart from that, when exams come at secondary school level, they will do junior WAEC. Senior secondary school level, they will do WAEC, he will do NECO, and then he will do maybe SSCE, which is the prerequisite. Then having survived that, he will go and write JAMB. Then he has written JAMB, he will go and do Privacity. There's nowhere in the world that happens. Now back to the issue of the Kaduna State issue. There's a difference between being able to be employed. You're not employable. Because you finish secondary school does not make you employable at all. If you throw an interview or publicity now for vacancy, you'll be shocked at the content of the application letters that you will see. That's one. When you bring them to board, you see that they are just empty, and ask them, funny, what would you want us to pay you? They are counting, they're telling you in hundreds of thousands. Meanwhile, you don't even know the job. I was telling a friend, if you want us to pay you 200,000, can you earn 10,000 for us? He says, well, mosquito jam butterfly, should be mama fly. Don't tell us all those stories. Can you deliver? That's the bottom line. So the issue of the Kaduna State teachers is unfortunate. It is age-long inheritance.
So what is responsible for that? Is it the politicians or corruption? Because obviously, I'll give you an example. There are instances where people who are not able to get juicy employment, in quote, end up in the teaching profession because it is seen as just one of those jobs that is just for those who are not so fortunate, who have gotten better education. Who is responsible?
We're just seeing Kaduna State. If we do this same kind of competence test in the 37 states of this federation, you'll be shocked at what we have. But the problem, the issue is, how did we employ these teachers to start with? What are their qualifications? Should we be employing teachers because we are in this position, and then we have people from our constituencies looking for jobs, and then we will now place them? Shouldn't we be checking the quality of people, based on merit, the quality of people that we employ to teach our children? As long as we don't do that, we cannot be so surprised.
Behind you there,
you know.
Yeah. I'm laughing because when they talk about quality, what do you get? How do you measure quality when schools?
It's not a laughing matter.
No, it's not. It's sad.
It's a serious
thing. The only way I can take the pressure off me is just to laugh about it. You see, it's what you give that you get. It's a reflection of what we are facing today. I'll give you some instances. Learning styles. We have 4 kinds of persons in the whole world: assigners, convergers, divergers, and assimilators. Each of these four persons understand education learning differently, and you need to adapt these four styles for people to understand. Our teachers don't even understand all of these learning styles. What do you want them to give? What do you want them to give? How do you expect them to give the best when, for God's sake, you see, when you look at the whole system, it's just faulty. In Finland, they have the best education ever in this world. 7 years, you start your primary one. 7 years. No nursery, nothing. Your parents, they put you through whatever they want to put you through at home, but 7 years, primary one. Here we are. Most institutions today, private schools, don't do primary 6. Primary 5, they jump into SS1.
The PTAs may be responsible. Parents want to ensure that their kids finish in good time.
It's not that only. The parents, they have 90% blame, agreed. The school also will not insist because they want money. If you insist and the person decides to withdraw the word from that school, you are losing. So they play along. All of these are problems that we need to really look at. When you talk about Kaduna State, Kaduna is just one. Even our university, is it not the same garbage in, garbage out? Somebody left this country, went to England, and I think he studies one of the sciences. They gave him a lab for him to work, do some, I think, blood sample or something like that. He couldn't. Somebody who studied mathematics, that was working in the Nigerian, was the one that was assisting him and say, this is how you do it. He said, we only did theory in school, no practicals.
No practicals.
So the whole system from the beginning to up is faulty. Education is faulty. Why do you think economy will grow? When you have, we major in our minor and minor in our major. Here is a country that exports what it doesn't have and import what it has. And you think we will grow? Things will not work. We need to go back to the drawing board, sit down. You see, I'm sorry, sometimes you need to shut down for a year, do a total overhaul, and say this is how we want to go.
That's what Ghana did.
It's the way out
for almost 2 years.
Because things are not really working. We shouldn't pretend about it. We are talking about monkeypox. We are taking our own sample to Senegal. Oh God, this is.
Please just take it easy.
It's sad.
All right, so you can be part of our discussion on Facebook. We are actually live on our Facebook TV. The only one on ground now that you will be able to watch us live and see our panelists as well. You can watch reactions and see how we do the program as well. You go to our Facebook fan page, Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. It's live. And it doesn't consume much data, okay? So feel free to do that. Our Twitter handle is @HRightsRadio. @HRightsRadio. Drop your contribution there. On our Instagram, you can also be part of the discussion. Drop your message on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. That's Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. We're also on Google Plus. Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. Go to YouTube, watch our current and previous videos, Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM, and on Twitch. You can find us by simply searching Human Rights Radio. Let's go to the phone lines. The first, the number you can call us up on is 081 89 991011. I have had over 70 missed calls because we had to finish with the discussion. Go ahead and call us up and be part of the discussion on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. This is X-Ray, and we're discussing a number of topics. First, we started with the borrowing, the letter to the Nigerian Senate and House of Representatives by Mr. President to borrow, seeking permission to borrow $5.5 billion. And then we moved on to the monkeypox update, then the issue of teachers in Kaduna State. Hello?
Good morning, the X-Ray.
Thank you, and good morning to you.
My name is Ifeanyi. I'm calling from Buhari.
Ifeanyi, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Please go ahead.
Kudos to all of you in the studio.
Thank you.
And more kudos to the Nigerian Parliament for summoning the Minister of Health to take a proactive measure in compelling the state of this problem, the multi-pop problem. Thank God that needed to my advice yesterday. As for the summons to teachers in Kaduna following examination of former reports, it has been a trend in Nigeria where our teachers are now well examined. We take class on the basis of inhuman, and it has affected our education tremendously. Coming to look at it very critically, and they or if it is even in Nigerian who is not aware of the way and manner of the people, our leaders speak English with their mother tongue. Where somebody, the Igbo man will tell you that Lagos is Lagos, and we are clapping at for them. They will pronounce Lagos. And another government will say it is hell. It is hell. All these pronunciations are they not part of what our children are learning from them. That is why some of us here in Abuja have taken time to know that we are children are trying to where these people is like doing less or nothing. Because at the end of the day, the time will come to think that and children always think on what the teacher told them and think more than what the parents told them. So I want to think we want to put it right this time. Let's start and the barrel hauling of education system, the teacher and the test and the students. Let all of us come to the basics and begin to learn things well. If the teacher cannot pronounce words correctly, with English words, and not with their mother tongue, let this start be existed and make sure our educational system is sanitized. That is the basis from this to conduct all these things. If not, more teachers are going to pay more exams. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ifeanyi, our regular caller on the program. Let's take some more calls and then we'll go back to our panelists in the building. Hello?
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning and welcome to X-Ray.
Yes, my name is not changed about it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a while.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. With regards to all the topics, starting from the Kaduna teachers' condition, the situation of our other clinic, teachers' strike, and all of that, one thing we are saying, we don't have leaders in this country as it is right now. We have dealers, according to one of somebody who was on the radio sometime. We have dealers. How we will know that we don't have leaders is this. In other time, when leaders who have the interest of the contract operate, when they make mistakes, you see them coming up willingly to resign their appointment because of their shortfalls or their shortcomings. But here, you see somebody doing the wrong thing, even when we the masses shout on top of our voices that they should leave the office, they will do everything humanly within their power to make sure they remain. And from what we say, we are changeable people saying, until we find a way of compelling our public office holders to patronize our public schools and public health facilities, we will be singing the same song till their kingdom come. I don't see a reason where, like, okay, now we're matching monkeypox now. We're taking samples to common Senegal here for us to know what we can do. Until, like I keep saying, whether we like it or not, so long as our politicians, both those in elected positions and appointed positions in public space, put their children in public schools or some car abroad or whatever, until we can arrest that situation, we'll be thinking the same songs like them come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Change Advocate, for your contribution on the program. And Nigerians are very fond of saying, come on, so country, come on, so. Meanwhile, those countries are moving, you know. So let's take this call. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning and welcome to X-Ray.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
want to appreciate you for the good work you are doing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. My name is Akalari.
All right. Please put
All
up
right,
your
I
radio
want to go to the program.
Please put up your radio set. Adewale, put up your radio set.
Your radio set?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry. We won't be able to take that call anymore because the feedback is really bad. We'd like for you to put off your radio sets before you call us on the program to avoid any form of feedbacks that will make listenership quite uninteresting. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
I think, I don't know how we're going to handle this. No matter how many times you announce this, it just keeps happening. Put off your radio sets, please, so that we can hear you clearly and avoid feedbacks. Hello?
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Emmanuel, future president.
All right. Hi, future president. It's been a while.
Peter, 1, 2, 3 to 10, Kundum.
Ah, no, you know they reach. Please go ahead.
Well, Peter, we have lots and lots of problems on our hands in this country. And we tend not to solve one after the other. Rather, we prefer adding more problems to our problems. The issue of borrowing is what I want to talk about.
All right.
Please, also, you know, the government we have in place now, they preach change, right? Then, this issue of borrowing, on top of borrowing, it doesn't feel good of us. We are Nigerians. We know what we have on ground. Why are we adding more problems to our problems? If projects that is being executed before now cannot be seen by previous administration through borrowing, why then is it that the government that preached change to the Nigerian populace has the mind to go and borrow more money? $5.5 billion US. You know how much that money is in Nigerian currency? I think I pity for this country, and I wish that God would give us a good leader in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, future president, for your contribution on the program. Let's take more calls before we go back to our panelists on the program. Quite a number of reactions so far from Nigerians across the board. Some happy, some not happy, and that's how we roll on X-Ray. Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Welcome to X-Ray.
Yes, I'm the one that previously called. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, sir, thank you. Concerning the issue of Nigeria borrowing money, you see that even the past they are not different from this present one. They are just using anti-corruption crusade to hide. And I know that when they are finished, we will see everything about them. Nigeria keep borrowing money, the money for the future they are borrowing for the next generation, the money they're supposed to programming spend, and they are sharing it within their the politicians. That is what they are doing. The issue of teachers in the schools are most of the appointments are being given to politicians. They share it within themselves and they present their candidate. Forget about the advertisement that they have shared everything, they have finished the recruitment. They just do that one for formality's sake. That is why we are facing what we are facing today. Not only that, the poor standard of education that we are seeing today, no standard of education. Government also involved. Governments, they are involved. The VCs, they are involved. Everyone in Nigeria are involved in this. Let me take a study of a situation where a university wants to do accreditation. Can you hear me?
Yes.
They want to do accreditation of a certain course. And they went out to look for a professor on sabbatical leave from another university. They brought them to the office and they set up the place for them, borrow books, and they put it in place. And they call the NUC from Abuja to come down to their university to accredit them. And most of the time, the officials will not even go there to do the necessary work. They will just lodge in the one hotel, they join themselves, collect honorarium, and approve the work for them, and they continue. Meanwhile, there's no lecturer to take all those courses. They don't have resources, nothing on grant. That is what we are facing in Nigeria. So we need a complete overhaul of the system. Look at Nigeria education system. There is nothing like manpower planning again in this country. Everybody also, when you look at some courses now like accounting economics and teaching jobs, they have excess. Why in some science courses, we don't have much. We are still looking for the people that will occupy, that will take charge of all this responsibility. And this is the responsibility of government. But everything is they are politicized everything now because of money. I think God will intervene.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your contribution on the program. Any reactions from our panelists before we go back to the phone lines?
Well, I still want to talk on the Kaduna case. The issue of teachers, we should take it very seriously because it's what you give that you get. You can't give what you don't have. If our teachers are not good enough, then what we get at the end of the day is haphazard economic policies, haphazard, even. In fact, it's a whole lot of issue. Corruption has played key role in everything, in all spheres of our lives. Whatever we like it, whether we call it fraud, we call it corruption, they are all linked. The way out of this is, let us go back to the drawing board. Education is key. I keep saying it. With the best of education, you can do whatever you want to do in this world. Ajakuta still is lying fallow because we have not challenged ourselves that we want to make the best out of it. I keep referring to Dr. Agwali. Dr. Agwali had every opportunity to stay back in the US, but he decided to come back home and see how much he can impact in the lives of every Nigerian. And this is the way. And
he also had opportunities by other investors, which he turned down.
Of course, which he turned down because
that will turn out to be expensive for Nigerians. Exactly.
He wants to make this vaccine as free as possible, as with minimal costs. So it's a wake-up call for all of us. Kaduna issue is just a tip of the iceberg. I'll commend the FCT administration because in FCT, I can assure you that almost all the public schools here in Federal Capital Territory, they are very effective because I've gone around some of them. I've seen, in fact, some of the teachers. I don't think there's any teacher in all of the school that doesn't have the background of education, and that makes FCT a bit better. And I think other states should learn from what is happening around here and see how they can move forward.
Go ahead and call us up. Well, okay, you want to add something?
The primary education especially is very, very key because that's the foundation. But when you go to the local government levels especially, what goes on there is appalling. You have teachers, most of them are farmers, and the children just come to school and the teachers are busy in their farms. So there's a need for us to monitor very, very well. You have a primary school teacher who does other things in the mornings during the school hours, and the day they want, they take the children to their farms to farm for them. So there's a need for us to really checkmate and ensure that even the ones that we have, let them do what they are meant to do. It's very important.
Well, again, I want to draw our attention to issues that precedes the recruitment and employment of these so-called teachers. There's a political angle to it, and the academic side is becoming a lot worrisome. First is Nigeria is a country of paper qualification. Whether you know it or not, just have documents to show that you have graduated, and that's all the visa. You get all that you want. And when you come in, like what happened in one of these universities, the vice chancellor had spoken to me and said, look, that young man who is the new or the current ASU chairman had come to this institution, with a very ragged dress and rubber sandal, and today is at the forefront of clamor to close down the school. He learned that the man was responsible for the closure of the university for 8 months before now, and back on the saddle, he wants the school to shut down. Why? Not because of salary, because of certain emoluments, maybe over time or whatever they call it and so on. But that's really annoying. The need for us to sit back and look at those who have the capacity should be on the top of a list, so that when a teacher comes in, he doesn't have to bring a book and begins to read or tell you to make photocopies of handouts and then he walks out and he calls the class reps, how many persons bought my handout today? We should leave that stage, honestly. Nigeria should, work seriously.
Well, from me, I'd like to say thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for coming on X-Ray this morning. But let me just hear final words, just two seconds. Okay, 2 seconds.
Our teachers need to be trained. We cannot discard all the teachers that we have. The ones that we have, let's build their capacity to the point that they can improve in their delivery.
All right.
I believe in the system that I don't sack people for not performing well. What I believe in is skilling up their capacity so that they can measure up to the standard we want them to be. For teachers, they need to be trained, and training is not just about training, there's constant retraining. So for that, I think we can get to where we want to get to.
Well, I think the Kaduna State experiment is a microcosm of the Nigerian story. If you want to get more shocking revelations, go to the north, go to places like Osun State, and I'm sure it will be so disturbing that we hardly can catch a good sleep. It is sad until we sit and tell ourselves the truth. Nobody can tell us.
And from me, a little story and confession. When we went to the primary schools those days, they were missionary schools. And normally when you finish, you just simply go straight up to your secondary school, which was also a missionary school. So there was nothing like primary school living certificate. You must have to write separately and all of that. We didn't write it. I wrote mine when I was in the university, and I sat with kids in that same school to write my primary school certificate, and I passed. I didn't know maths very well, but I passed in flying colors. I don't know how I did it, but at least I'm better than some of those teachers. Thank you so much for coming and being part of X-Ray on Human Rights Radio 101.1 FM. The program continues tomorrow. Have a great time. My name is Peter Kundum.